with regard to food shortages, yes, we did so talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. Food shortages. Food shortages. Food shortages. It's going to be real. Food shortages. It's going to be real.
One, two, three.
Hello, friend. The Mystical American Patriots Society is transmitting to you from our secret ice fortress and laboratory high in the Swiss Alps. This is a variety program for normal sandwich-eating Americans with some concerns about living in a deranged, post-Christian technocracy. Keep your third eye on the sky and your ear to the ground as Sumo and Smokestack direct your attention to a higher dimension. Are you ready? Stand by.
An open window, a novel, a couple holding hands, an avocado, a poem written in the sand. Fresh fallen snow on the ground, a golden retriever in a flower crown. Is this heaven? Or is it just a white woman? A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. Latte foam art, tiny pumpkins, fuzzy comfy socks, coffee table made out of driftwood, a bobblehead of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a needlepoint of a fox, some random quote from Lord of the Rings, incorrectly attributed to Martin Luther King. Is this heaven? Or am I looking at a white woman? A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. Her favorite photo of her mom. The caption says, I can't believe it, it's been a decade since you've been gone. Mama, I miss you. I miss sitting with you in the front yard. Still figuring out how to keep living without you. It's got a little better, but it's still hard. Mama, I got a job, I love in my own apartment. I got a boyfriend and I'm crazy about him. Your little girl didn't do too bad. Mama, I love you, give a hug and kiss to Dad. A goat cheese salad, a backlit hammock, a single glass of wine. Incredibly derivative political street art, a dream catcher bought from Urban Outfitters, a vintage neon sign, 3 little words and a couple of doves, and a ring on her finger from the person that she loves. Is this heaven? Or is it just a white woman? A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. A white woman's Instagram. A white woman. White woman's Instagram. Come your Krasulins. Come your Krasulins.
Pardon?
Come your Krasulins. I see Gwen and a wee.
What?
I see Gwen and a wee. I bet you Gwen. I see Gwen a big sip. I no believe. I no believe. Do mine. Yeah, like some wettles? You like some wettles? You Gwen with a supper? Yeah, I'll go in supper. Do lebe. Good, let it be. Good morning, Smokestack.
Hey, good morning.
How are you? Are you a speaker of the pig train language?
No. That was weird though,
See?
because I could understand like 10% of what you said, and the rest of it was gibberish.
I know. I know. Yes. Tell me, are you in favor of pizza? Yes or no? In general.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite kind of pizza? Like if you could ask the pizza angels for any pizza.
I like the one with the big globs of mozzarella cheese and fresh basil.
Oh, those are good. Do you like thin crust or thick?
Typically thick.
Yeah. Well, there's your first mistake.
Uh-oh.
But I'm willing to forgive.
I'm done goofed.
You know. What do you think about? How about this though? What do you think about a pizza that's just dough, right? It's baked dough, like just the crust, and then tomato sauce on top of it. You know, just like smeared around.
Yep.
And then just large unmelted chunks of goat cheese smattered haphazardly. What do you think of that?
I feel like somebody really just phoned it in, and I would be disappointed.
Interesting. Well, okay. What about a pizza that has no sauce? Right, it's just the dough, and then there's cheese sort of melted onto the dough, like as though the cheese is the sauce, right? Like a big round cheesy bread pie.
I think I would call that like more of a flatbread than a pizza.
Well, but hold on, it's not done.
Oh.
All right. Because then in the middle, right in the center of the pizza, is an egg sunny side up.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, but then, right, the whole thing is covered in banana slices.
Nah, you lost me there.
Okay, well, let's not be judgmental, because then each slice is separated by a whole unscaled codfish, as though the cod is a sushi. Does this please you?
This does not please me, no.
It doesn't please you at all.
No.
Well, I'm sorry, listeners. I must apologize. I had no idea we had a bigot on the show. I mean, truly, here I was trying to share with our listeners some of the finer points of Pitcairn culture.
Yeah.
And you just threw it back in their faces. Like, the finer points of Pitcairn cuisine.
Do you mean to tell me that there are people that eat a flatbread with bananas and fish on it?
Is this the legacy of slavery?
Am I supposed to believe this?
This is true. But your intolerance, Is this what Rosa Parks died for? Is it? This callous disregard for indigenous peoples and their culture? I don't think it is.
Well, if she ate banana fish pizza, I
What about Emmett Till? I don't think this is what Paul Lynde would have wanted. You know? So I apologize, everybody. I think we can do better. I know we can. We have to learn and grow. We can and we must.
Whatever. I'm going to do worse.
But today, I hope we can grow and learn because we're going to talk about Pitcairn culture in all its glory.
Sweet.
Because what I just spoke to you it sounded a little like English, didn't it?
It did. It did sound a little bit. Like I got 4 words out of it.
Yeah, Pitcairn is a language spoken by about 55 people in the globe. And it's considered a Creole, like a pidgin.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mix of Tahitian and English.
Tahitian and English. Okay.
Yeah. So I know or believe. I said I don't think so. Mm-hmm. What I actually said was, "Come Yorker Sulins, come on y'all, you kids. I swe gwyn na wee. I'm going swimming, like going gwyn. Go.
Okay.
And then they said, about ye gin? Where you going? I see Gwyn a big ship. I'm going to the ship. And they said, I don't think so. I know or believe. Do mine. Doesn't matter. Don't mind. Do mine. You like some vettles? Would you like some food? Some vittles, you know? You like some vettles? You gwyn we up a supper? So you're going to cook the supper? Mm-hmm. You gwyn we up supper. Yeah. Yes. Dude, lebe. Good. Let it be. Good. Let it be. Good. Let it be. So I was trying to, this is a show of culture.
Clearly.
High culture. Yeah. And I wanted to introduce our listeners to this beautiful language, because this is the chance for, you're not familiar with Pitcairn people or the Pitcairn language at all, right?
Not at all. I did not know there were such a people.
Okay, well, that's, I don't know if it's forgivable in this day and age, but we can work through it, right? It'd be like not knowing about the Pashtuns, right?
Right.
There are only 47 of them in the world, but that just means that they are more important because they're more minority-ish.
I see.
Right. Now they are white, all of them.
The Pashtuns or the Pitcairns?
Really...
Which ones are white? The Pashtuns or the Pitcairns?
Both.
Oh.
The Pitcairns are...
That's why I don't know about them.
Well, yeah, but they are indigenous at the same time,
okay.
See? Okay, so let's learn. This is an opportunity to learn. So the Pitcairn people are they're island-dwelling pedophiles in the South Pacific.
Oh, that took a turn.
Right. Well, this is actually true. I don't think we should be too judgmental yet, right? Because they are not only pedophiles. That doesn't define them. Just like our new court justice thinks. It doesn't... That's not all that matters in a person.
Yeah.
Right? There's more... People are multifaceted. Right? Like, if someone is if someone builds a cathedral, but also is a child rapist, who of us is to say which one is more defining of him?
I
think that's what our justice would say.
Not me. I'm not a biologist. I couldn't.
I'm not a exactly.
Couldn't make that judgment.
I'm not a biologist. That's just gonna be my excuse for anything.
Oh yeah, every time somebody asks me a question I don't know, that's the new answer.
I'm not a biologist. Listen. I'm not a biologist because despite, as I said, Pitcairn Island only having a population of 47, right? They're not just pedophiles, but they have 47. They have several thriving businesses that you can actually find on this small island on Google Maps.
How can they be thriving if there's only 47 people on an island in the South Pacific?
It's a bit weird, isn't it? But they're there, and they have all these reviews, and they're great. One of them being Andy's Pizzeria. And some of the pizzas on offer on the menu are what I just described to you.
Oh, gross.
Andy's Pizzeria. Now, maybe he's just working with what he's got. You know, the Pitcairn Islands are like tiny islands. Like, you could drive around them in like 15 minutes. In smack dab in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, like halfway between New Zealand and Argentina or Chile. Just like out there in nowhere. Right? So they have limited things to make a pizza out of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But they make great pizza, and they're pedophiles. Now, is this gonna be a Pizzagate episode?
No?
Little bit. Right? Little bit.
Uh-oh.
Just a little, just listen, guys. Okay, so, Pitcairn Island, right, 47 people,
okay.
Owned by the British Commonwealth.
Mm-hmm.
Back when the British were going around claiming islands, they went to Australia, and they were like, ours, planted a big flag,
yeah,
skinned a kangaroo, wore it as a suit, right? And then they went to New Zealand, and they planted a flag, and they said, ours. And they were like, look at those Maori people. Shot them. And then they had a Kiwi, right? Great. No qualms there. And then they went a little bit more across to South America, and they're like, it's not really here. But they're like, oh, look at those little bitty islands. Little bitty islands there. Ours also. And they're like, is anything here worth doing? It's like, no, but it's sort of nice, isn't it? It's in the middle of nowhere. It's like this lush green, place. I mean, we can have it. And so they put some colonists there. Some of them were like, as all of the South Pacific were like fugitives from the law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what they all were. That's why they took so quickly to being locked down in Australia and New Zealand, because they all know they deserve it.
It's in their blood memory.
They're all criminals. Is it going too far to say that every Australian is a child rapist? Yeah. But also, is it? Right? I mean, it's not for the Pitcairn Islands. Because, so they have this pizzeria on top of being famous for pedophilia. Andy's Pizzeria, right? 47 people, owned by the British Commonwealth, has a little post office there that the UK serves. Little plane comes down, grabs their mail, flies away every day. Right? Little pizzeria serves the raw codfish, banana cheese pizza with egg on it. Right? Just north of that, on Google Maps, we have Willis's Gardening Equipment Shop. 5 stars, by the way.
Well, I mean, that's legit. I mean, you're going to have to garden if you live on a tiny island in the South Pacific.
You are. So you got Andy and Willis, right? And then right up the road from that, we have something which appears to be an inn or a hotel.
Okay.
Called Pal's Pitcairn Chalet. Then a little farther up, we have a second inn called Down Alwyn's. So two hotels. Then we have the Pitcairn Mangariva boat service out there on Bounty Bay.
Okay.
Then we have the Pitcairn Island Museum. This is all the businesses you see on Google Maps.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have something called Christian Cave, which appears to be like an actual cave in the side of a cliff from the photos.
Okay.
I don't know what that's about. Then there's a Seventh-day Adventist church, and we all know what goes on there. Then there's the post office, then a treasury office, and then the main road up from the harbor appears to be called Hill of Difficulty, which is an odd name for a road. Hill of Difficulty.
Yeah.
So 47 people, all these businesses. Isn't that a bit weird? I don't know. If this were a normal island, right, in the middle of the South Pacific, smack dab between New Zealand and Argentina, I don't know. I'd expect maybe most people to be employed like farming, subsistence fishing, right? Whatever. And instead we have like a little hardware store and a pizzeria, little general store, treasury, a museum, and so on, right? I just wouldn't expect that if it were a real normal island. Would you? I don't know. I mean,
you got to do something. But I wouldn't expect. I'm looking at it now on satellite photos, and it really is in the middle of nowhere. And
absolutely middle of nowhere.
it's mostly just covered in trees.
Yep, just a little forest.
Not a whole lot going on here. I don't get it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
get it either. Now, it just wouldn't be what I'd expect if it was a real normal island. But now, on the other hand, if it were, say, perhaps another international getaway for international pedophiles, like Little St. James Island where Jeffrey Epstein operated, then that could explain some things. Could explain some things. Right, about why these things are there. Now, mind you, the businesses I just talked about are the ones that exist registered on Google Maps as of today, this recording, right? Surprisingly, they've removed a couple somewhat recently.
Oh, no.
As recently as 2 years ago, in 2020 year, the Pitcairn Islands were even more vibrant in their thriving economy.
Really?
Even more diverse and vibrant. Now, listen. If you were a person who followed Pizzagate back in the day, you know that, one, it's dumb and stupid. And the people that think it's true are dumb and stupid and irrationally and maybe violent, right? Number one. Number two, international power players forming secret cliques of mutual blackmail to maintain their allegiances to each other through the rape and torture of children is ridiculous.
Totally ridiculous.
I mean, just Epstein, right? Oh, sorry.
Excuse me.
Right. Just insane. That can't be. It's debunked. It's debunked. And then three, that those secret cliques of international pedophiles communicate with one another through a not-so-secret system of symbols and code language. Like, for example, an underage sex slave being called a pizza in their emails. Yeah. Like, hey, Obama, Iraq's Obama. Would you like to come over for some pizza? Signed, Lil Bilton. Right? I don't want to be accusing anybody of anything here. Just, hypothetically.
If you guys didn't read the Podesta email dump, which I don't even know if is available because the people that were... I think WikiLeaks hosted it for a long time and then took it down.
Yeah, you got to find it on the dark web.
But it was an absolute horror show of weird crap like this. This is not an exaggeration for those of you that didn't read the Podesta emails. The weird code stuff going on in there was as gross as it is transparent.
Right. Whatever they were talking about, it didn't appear to be actual pizza.
No.
Right? And so, or, maybe gay male sex slaves were referred to as hot dogs. Right?
Yeah.
So you had pizza and hot dogs. I think there was one email, which maybe not, for a party, maybe not, allegedly for maybe not, Barack Obama, maybe not, was ordered to have 5 hot dogs that cost $500,000.
Yeah. That's some expensive hot dogs.
Something of that weirdness.
It was, I don't think it was quite that much money, but I mean, it was tens of thousands of dollars in the hot dog budget kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was strange. Yeah. Right? Now, that wouldn't make sense if you were buying actual hot dogs for a grill out. It would make sense if hot dogs were a code name for sex slaves.
Right.
That you imported from Little St. James Island or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying, allegedly. I don't really know what happened. But no one has given a better explanation than it's a code for that sort of stuff. Right? And then the fourth part of Pizzagate was, I don't know, maybe. Look, I don't know. Maybe they referred to the sex slaves as food items because maybe sometimes they cooked them alive and ate them. I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I'm not making accusations. I'm just telling you what the conspiracy was, right? Now, if the Pitcairn Islands were that and weren't, an island of subsistence fishermen, then what other businesses might you have expected to find in addition to Andy's Pizzeria that have been recently taken down by Google Maps? I don't know, maybe something called Frank's Hot Dogs in the middle of the woods.
Oh, no.
Or, interestingly, Andy's Pizzeria 2. The first one being so successful with its 47 customer base and banana fish egg pizza that it needed a second one.
Oh, man.
Right? Or, apparently, according to some old screenshots from Twitter I can find, some were claiming that there was a Turkish restaurant on the island that, in the menu, claimed to actually serve human flesh. It's a joke! It was a joke! It was a joke. Someone's just joking!
Yeah, they're just joking. Sure.
They're just joking. They're just joking. It's all a goof. And such places like Sam's Coffee Club, right, are such places like Sam's Coffee Club and Coggins Land Tea Place, located in the middle of dense forests and not particularly near the main township or any major roads? Yes! Yes, they are. Fascinating. Fascinating. Why would this be? Now, I hear you, listeners. I hear all of our listeners defiantly rising up from their bathtubs, shaking their fists, covered in soap suds. And they say, but sumo, they say, you don't understand island life. That's what they say. They say to me, they say, sumo, you don't understand island life. We, the people in the bathtub, we understand island life. On small islands, Sumo, people wear many hats. Andy probably runs the pizzeria like once a month on a Friday, just for funsies. You know, the people come, he's like, yeah, I got a pizzeria, yeah, and everybody comes there at the pizza night, right? And he spends the rest of his life catching fish. Or those hotels, they're just like, you know, they're just little B&Bs. It's probably just a little lady named Carol who has a spare room for the rare tourist who lands on their island, right? Coggins Land Tea Place. Probably just a random guy from Turkey who likes couscous and barbecuing human babies. Just, you know, people wear hats. You're suspicious of nothing, Sumo. You're reaching. You know, this isn't sus. The Pitcairn Islands aren't sus. And I hear you. I had similar thoughts in my bathtub. I did. You know, I know island life also. I have been on islands. I have been on tiny islands. I know people wear many hats there. Sure, of course. I've been to those islands in the Great Lakes where the people all talk in the olden way. Mm-hmm. You know, where they're like, Tangiers Island. I'm from Tangiers Island. That's how they all talk. They do, and they claim that they're I'm sorry, Tangiers Island is actually in the Atlantic Ocean. Never mind. That place. They claim that that's the original British accent that came over. That theirs is the most pure original colonial British accent.
Are you talking about the Gullah people?
No, they're near the Gullah people though. They're near the Gullah people, and apparently, if they're to be believed, when John Smith came over, he was like, "Hi, Pocahontas, I'm gonna kill you now," because that's how they all speak. Yeah, really slow and somewhat like mentally retarded. One might think, right? And maybe that explains a lot of colonial history. I don't know. Maybe it's just a bunch of people with guns and retard strength running around. Who knows? You know? So I know island life. I get it. I know people wear lots of hats. And so I thought the same thing. I thought, this is not sus. This is just something weird. It's a goof. Some people on the island, they're bored. They're having fun. They're making things on Google Maps because Google Business was like, hey, do you want to declare new businesses? And like, yeah, look, what about Andy? He makes pizza sometimes. Let's call it a pizzeria, and it'll be great. And I thought, that is the explanation. Gotta be. But, you know, as one does, I did a little bit of research, as one does. And what do you, besides gorgeous coastal views and quaint island life and a little general store that, you know, is run by a 5th generation family that's been on there since they were pirates that got shipwrecked in like the late 1800s. What do you think the Pitcairn Islands are also known for?
I couldn't guess.
Well, I looked into it, and lo and behold, Pitcairn Island is most famous for a sexual assault trial from 2004, in which 7 men living on the island faced 55 charges of sexual offenses against children and young people. Ha! Ha! I don't know. That seems to be their main claim to fame, is in which 7 men, a full 1/3 of the residents of the island's male population, so 1/3 of the men on the island, including the mayor, were charged with and convicted of sexual offenses, including the rape of children and young people. Including their mayor. The mayor, a fella named Steve Christian, right? And then another 6 men who lived on the island. And then another 6 men besides them who lived abroad but visited the island off and on, including his brother Sean Christian, also were charged.
Oh, man.
So of the people, 13 men who either lived there or came there semi-frequently were all convicted of child rape at the place with Andy's Pizzeria and the Frank's Hot Dogs in the middle of the woods with the Turkish place that one time said they had human flesh. I don't know. It's just a bit weird to me, given what we've seen out of, like, you know, St. James Island and what. I don't know. It's just a coincidence. So, like, Steve Christian was the mayor, right? Now, his brother, his brother, Steve Christian, his brother, Sean Christian, after Steve was ousted for being, you know, convicted of child rape, his brother, Sean Christian, later became the mayor. So Steve was out in 2007. His brother came in as mayor in 2014. This is a bit weird, though, because his brother was also convicted of child rape.
Oh, man.
He went to jail for 2 years, and then, which is a pretty light sentence to me, I don't know, for being convicted of 2 counts of child rape and being the assistant of another rape.
Who governs this island? Is this a British
Well,
possession?
I think it was taken up under the courts of New Zealand, which is a British Commonwealth place, right?
Okay.
They're technically under the crown. And so, somehow, the political system decided these particular pedophiles only need 2 years in jail because of this. And then when they go back to the island, we're going to elect him as mayor again. Like his brother, he's going to be the mayor now. So, so get this. Steve and Sean's dad, right? Mayor, he was ousted for child rape. Steve is then the mayor. He gets ousted for raping a child with his brother Sean. Sean and Steve go to jail for a brief period of time. Sean comes back to the island, is elected mayor again despite having served time for raping children.
Oh, man.
Isn't that weird? The Andy's Pizzeria. I don't know. It's almost like this. I don't want to make any claims here, you know, specifically. Mm-hmm. But it's almost as though this place has a political culture which covers for pedophiles.
Get out of town.
What do you know? It's
do you
almost
really
like
think
maybe
that democracy would allow that to happen?
I don't think so. No, I mean, I'm fighting for Ukraine to keep this from happening there, because as long as it has democracy, it can't have that.
Except it does. Ukraine is also like the child trafficking hub of Eastern Europe.
No, we know this can't be true because Hillary
FYI.
was taken in the military tribunals in the tunnels. Right?
Patriots in control.
Our patriots are in control as long as we fight Russia. I think that's how it works.
You know, Ukraine has a thriving business of women delivering babies and selling them to Western gay men.
I know. Ukraine is a horrible place, as I've mentioned before. This is why I can't take a side in the conflict. Because, on the one hand, is it great to invade the country to fight a proxy war against America? No, not great. I understand why you do it. I understand the NATO thing. You could argue your back's against the wall. Maybe so. I'm not judging you. But also, Ukraine is a place of Nazi pedophile sex slave traffickers. So, I'm not that upset about it. Right? When they try to portray Ukraine as this great place, like, no, Ukraine is actually messed up in a great way.
Yeah, like people think that human trafficking is like some white man in a pith helmet throwing a net over a bunch of little brown kids and throwing them in an airplane and taking them away. Which, I don't know, maybe that happens too, but real, like, human trafficking also encompasses, like, wealthy American gay dudes paying to buy some gypsy woman in Ukraine's baby.
Yeah, it's all a bit weird. It gets a bit weird. And the Ukraine is a place of evil. It may be a portal to hell. I don't know. The people that live there, there are innocent ones there suffering who deserve sympathy, but there's also a lot of not innocent ones there who I don't know what they deserve. But it is arguably the place of the Khazarian Empire, which has done so many things. So I don't know. I mean, and they did eat their children there too, Holodomor, and they still and they made that into them being victims.
Right.
We were so oppressed, we had to eat our babies. What's wrong with you? And they act like that gives them victim points.
Yeah. No, sorry.
And then they're screaming that, and then they take off their shirt and they're covered in swastikas. Mm-hmm. And you're like, what are you doing? And they're like, glory for Ukraine!
Yeah, was it that Kiev chief of police guy?
It's Ukrainians. Ugh. As I said before, just bleh. And they have the nerve to talk bad about the gypsies.
It is a little weird that we're gonna flirt with World War III for Ukraine, which is a complete dump.
Exactly. And yeah, I have so much more respect for the gypsies than I do the Ukrainians. On the whole, this is not to say there's probably a lot of Ukrainian refugees in Poland right now listening to our show, as you do. And I'm sure you guys are great, but you also know you have some troubles in the country that's now being blown up, right? You also know that.
No, I've never met anyone from Ukraine that didn't tell me it's a complete dump.
Oh yeah, I know. It's bad. And now, is all of it their fault? No. I mean, like when the USSR fell, there was a lot of poverty and war and fear. Yeah. And a lot of people just decided, let's rebuild our personal and national identities around being like American skinheads. What if we did that? And they were like, that sounds good. Yeah. Right? That sounds good. We'll be that also tries to do like Eastern European rap. Mm-hmm. And, that is always awful. Eastern European rap. And they just... So, I don't know. They just picked a bad hill to build their new house on.
Right.
They could have picked, like, I don't know, being good machinists or something and having a good industrial base. But no, they decided, let's base our thing on the skinheads from, like, American History X and just make that our national identity.
Well, it's like once you realize that Ukraine has been a dump for a long time and really in need of some solutions, and then you laid out like, okay, what are the 5 possible solutions to maybe change some things in Ukraine? And one of them would be joining NATO and becoming part of the Western power bloc. Another one would be stronger integration into the Russian sphere of influence. And maybe you could come up with some other scenarios, and then down at the bottom of the list is like the worst idea possible, where everything is going to be a disaster, is the thing we're doing right now. Like, yeah, we're in the worst of all possible solutions for Ukraine.
And here's the thing, for the people that love NATO, look, I know everyone wants to be inclusive, but if you're too inclusive, you let in people that make the club dodgy.
Yeah. True.
And Ukraine is like the dodgy person you let into the club that makes it no fun anymore.
Yeah.
You should not, for your own good, you should not let in Ukraine. Like, that should never be on the table, because people should have been like, oh, hello, Ukraine. They'd be like, oh, sure, and they would say, listen to my gangsta rap in Russian. And you would say, ugh. And then they would rip off their shirt and be covered in swastikas, and you'd say, ugh. And then they would say, and now we will traffic gypsy women to homosexuals in Germany. And you would say, ugh. And then you would just not do it. But that's not what we chose to do. Because people don't pay attention to what's actually happening. They just believe what the screen says. And that's how they ruin clubs. That's how clubs get ruined.
Mm-hmm.
You know? That's why we on this show have a heavy policing.
Yeah.
Of to keep the club pure. You know? So if it can't, like, I guess my point in all that is, if Ukraine was actually a democracy, it couldn't have these problems, because the military tribunals would have Hillary Clinton under the tunnels executing her secretly, as Q told us.
Right.
And so the Pitcairn Islands cannot possibly also be a democracy, because this is happening there. Right? And so I don't know. It's almost as though the dad being a pedophile and the mayor, and then the son being a pedophile and the mayor, and then the third son being a pedophile and the mayor, or the second son. It's almost as, to me, it's like a political conspiracy or something.
No, it's ridiculous.
Now, Sean does, in his bio on Wikipedia, it does claim to be a political independent. So maybe it's okay. Maybe that makes it better. I mean, at least he's a free thinker.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, this and the little St. James Island with the temple to the pagan gods and stuff. I mean, one could be forgiven for thinking, maybe, perhaps, that, like, powerful politicians and billionaires shack up on random islands and turn them into rape rooms. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe that explains all these businesses in the middle of the woods on an island.
It kind of makes sense also that these guys all have these giant yachts, because you can visit these islands without,
Right.
FAA records of your trip.
Exactly. That's
'Cause,
why
like,
you
how
need
did
the big
everybody
yacht,
get-
so you can go to the rape island without it being a record on it.
Well, I was gonna say, how did everybody get in trouble with Epstein? It's from the flight logs, but actually none of them really got in trouble.
No, they didn't. Bill Gates is still running around.
How many of it? All you people that want to say it was not. This isn't a giant conspiracy of powerful government people, and this is just Epstein was just a weirdo. Why haven't any of the people that were going to Epstein's Island been faced any kind of prosecution? Even though we all now know what was going on there. Like, it's all been out in court. It hasn't been covered in the media, but it has come out in court what went on there. And nothing has happened to any of these people.
The only one that took a fall was Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah.
And as Tim Dillon said, that's just the patriarchy trying to keep down a businesswoman. She broke through those glass ceilings.
She sure did, didn't she?
I mean, how many female international pimps are there?
Yeah.
Not many.
I mean, typically a male-dominated enterprise historically.
Being an international child pimp is typically a male-dominated enterprise, but she smashed that glass ceiling.
She sure did.
And they took her down for it because it's a boys' club. It's an old boys' club. And should we stand with Ghislaine?
Well, she's going to be replaced by trans Ghislaine.
Yes.
You can't have women excelling at things, really, so we're going to bring in a tranny to handle the next.
Once we have transsexual Ghislaine Maxwell, there will be peace. The world will heal. I want to buy the world a Coke and sit with it a while. Me and Ghislaine Maxwell up on a temple.
Uh-huh.
Just swinging our feet off the side, you know?
Yeah. It's a nice picture.
And yeah, I mean, she was just a local gal did good, and they didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I mean, you know, it was her, by the way. If you're not familiar with the story, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad is the one that gave Jeffrey Epstein all the money.
Yep. And he was
she's the real power player here.
And he's like a confirmed intelligence guy with several intelligence agencies.
Ghislaine Maxwell's dad worked for like the CIA, MI6 of the UK, all of them.
Mossad, yeah.
Mossad. He was like a triple intelligence agent that was just running blackmail rings.
Yep.
And then he got his little girl who was trying to be something in this patriarchal hellhole of a world that we've made.
Yep.
And he taught her the ropes. And her boyfriend, he said, "Listen, you're a math teacher. I'm going to give you $1 billion as long as you can, because I love you so much for my daughter. And you guys can travel around and hobnob with people and get them to come to the rape island." And Ghislaine knew about it the whole time. And she just, but what was she? Girls got to eat. You know?
Yep.
I'm tired of all the bigotry.
And the thing is, the Maxwell family is still out there doing business and doing all sorts of stuff. Ghislaine's sisters are involved in all kind of biotech companies, and I mean, it's crazy what that family is involved with. And this Epstein thing has not really affected the family business. They're like the Bidens. They're Teflon. It's incredible.
Yeah, and again though, I don't want to harp on her because I'm, the sexism. We don't want to perpetuate that. And I'm really turning over a new leaf.
Okay, that's good.
I didn't like it that you were so bigoted toward the Pitcairn people and didn't appreciate their culture, their pizza. And I don't like it that of all the people, there has to be a woman take the fall for this. Huh? Bill Gates can just saunter away scot-free.
Yeah.
Look, I know he's got man boobs, so that maybe makes him sort of, trans. But he's just fat, actually. Mm-hmm. Don't let him get away with that. He's just really fat.
Yeah.
So Jeff Bezos walks away. All of them do. And the lady takes the fall. Isn't that the way it always goes? It's just... Anyway, the people in this trial from the Pitcairn Islands, they argued, their defense was, listen, it was never clear that we were actually under British law. This is their argument in court. This is what they really said. They said, it was never obvious to us. It was never stated that like the 1954 Child Protection Act of the UK applied to us. We're in the middle of the Pacific. We thought we could rape the kids. Nobody told us it wasn't okay.
This was their defense in court.
Serious? Because they couldn't argue they didn't do it. There was like 1 billion witnesses. Well, I mean, all the witnesses on the island. And then like there was like evidence and stuff and like recorded. There was no way to. So they just were like, listen, we didn't know it was illegal.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Well, but they even challenged the jurisdiction of the UK.
Wow.
They said,
man.
They even said in the court, isn't this just colonialism? Keep in mind, they're all white people. There are no indigenous Pitcairns because no one could live there without a constant supply of goods and services from the outside.
Oh, man.
There's no island people here.
Yeah.
They're just all white people. And they're like, isn't this colonialism? And like, traipsing on indigenous peoples? And this went through court for like a year, and New Zealand was like, no, it's not. You guys are still under the law of the thing, and you're going to jail. But then someone stepped in and was like, but only for 2 years. Now you can go back and be the mayor. So, I don't know. It's almost as though these islands owned by the UK Crown. One member of that family recently being credibly accused and suffering some legal troubles for having been connected to Jeffrey Epstein's island, maybe are doing the same thing somewhere else.
I do find I find it interesting that under the laws of New Zealand, it's not disqualifying to hold office to have been convicted of child sexual abuse.
Well, he served his time.
Yeah, but aren't like
look,
in America, if you're a convicted felon, you can't run for office.
Are you going to hold something against someone after they've served their time?
Yeah.
I mean, they paid their debt to society. He was convicted on 2 counts of child rape and aiding and abetting the rape of a third. And he went to jail for 2 years, and you don't want to forgive him and just let bygones be bygones. This is the side of bigotry I was talking about. This is what we have to get over. This is what we're growing and changing through. You know? I think it's going to be... We're all learning.
It's
here.
dark smokestack. I've got my laser eyes beaming today.
Yeah, you're just it's a little too... I just don't want us to jump to conclusions, I guess is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't want us to jump to conclusions.
Yeah, you don't want to be like that guy who shot up the pizza place.
Right. Who got a longer sentence.
Who conveniently made the whole thing...
the people that raped the kids.
Conveniently shut down the whole conversation about it when that happened.
Yeah.
Real convenient.
Really conveniently.
Yep.
So, I was thinking about the Pitcairn Islands, and maybe we should visit. I don't think we should bring our kids.
I don't think so.
But I would like to just see if all these, I would like to walk to the GPS coordinates of these places and see if there's anything there.
I mean, we could visit it if I have a missile destroyer. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some tourism there because it's like people are on a cruise from like Argentina to New Zealand or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they like have a stop, and they have a little stop. They get off, and they're like, "Hey," and the kids are raped, and they get back on the boat. They got a little general store there. I looked at some pictures. You can buy Fruit Loops, so that's nice.
Wow!
All the comforts of home. But so I was thinking about this, and then I was, the Epstein thing, and then I was like, in connection with why they're pushing World War III so hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, right. World War III is like a get-out-of-jail-free card for all the nonsense they've done.
Mm.
Like this, it sort of has to happen.
Yeah.
Like the weight of all the lies needs a resolution because people are waking up to them.
Right.
And this erases all of them. You have a big World War III, right? Big, huge World War III. And then you're like, I thought we were going to space. We were doing it, but the war.
Yeah, the war, man.
The war did the space. And it was, we can't do it anymore. What about climate change? Well, you know what? That's better now because everybody's dead. And so they're not producing as much CO2. We don't have to worry about that anymore. It's fine. Or then and the nuclear bombs that we allegedly dropped, it made the nuclear winter, it's cooled it down, it's fine. Right? Or they're like, the fiat currency. Turns out we don't do them now. We blew up the dollar. It's okay. It's every single one of these lies can be reset with the Great Reset of a World War III.
It can. Sure can.
You can just it's a get out of jail free card for all of the fake.
Well, all the big promises of America that are, awkwardly not coming true. Yeah, you have to have a way to land that plane.
You got to have a way to land the plane. Like what? You can't just go on promising we're going to go to Mars for 100 years and just continue to pretend to send up Teslas into orbit instead.
Yep.
Like that doesn't go.
Well, if the space program,
there's only so many harnesses you can hang upside down from.
I mean, the space program kind of unraveling as a fraud. You really do have to have something big to distract from that if you're going to continue to have a.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do if as it becomes more and more evidence that the space program is a big fraud?
Yeah.
And I don't know, listener, if everyone's ever been up to space or whatever, but I do know at least some of the time, some of those videos are faked and they're hanging upside down from wires.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
a lot of the
obvious. I
videos
don't know.
are super fake.
I don't know to what extent
Yeah.
anyone goes up there. I don't personally think anyone ever got up there, but maybe they have. But at least a lot of it is fake.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the space shuttle went away for reasons. Like, I thought we had to fix the satellites. I thought it was for that. We don't need to fix satellites anymore. The Russians will help us. Aren't we at war with the Russians? Nah, not in space. They love to help us with our military satellites. You just love it. And you have to land that plane. Like, what do?
Yeah.
You gotta just blow up the world. There's no other way to do it.
And you can't rearrange the economic and political power structures of globalism without a big war. I mean, you can't just say, "Oh, we're handing over the control of international trade to China."
Right.
And then dust off your hands and say, "Well, good job, boys." You have to have something that can transition that.
Yeah, and the war is the thing.
Right. I mean, the U.S. came to power, global power, through World War I and II, mainly II.
Yeah.
And so if somebody else is going to come to power, there's going to be a war to change it.
Yeah, and the most obvious successors to the United States are the people that pick Terrans, pick cranes. They will come to power following World War III. They'll be the only place not blown up.
Mm-hmm.
And they will begin again. They'll start again. And let me tell you guys, right? So as this matrix falls, as this false reality of lies falls in the war, after it's all over, those of us that are still alive, you're going to wake up and the world will return to something you consider normal. It'll be like people have what you consider normal values again. And people, fiat currency isn't insane anymore. And people aren't pretending to fly Teslas into the moon and all this stuff, right? And you're going to be like, oh, all right, now it's real again. Now it's real. But I'm going to be there telling you, still fake. Because it will be. Because all that's going to happen is when the Matrix returns to a more comfortable simulation, a lot of you are just going to plug right back in. A lot of you came unplugged only because it got so weird.
Yeah.
But once it gets normal again, you're going to go, oh, good, I can plug back in, back into the thing, right? And I don't judge you for it. I get it. It's fine. But all this stuff is still fake, right? I mean, like, even down to, like, property lines and stuff. It's on base level fake. And if I'm still here, I will tell you, I may transcend, right? I don't know what's going to happen. My atoms may dissolve in a chariot of nuclear fire like Elijah, just going up into the sky. And you'll hear me going, "You're gay!" as I ride up into the sun.
It is, when you mentioned property lines, it just made me think about and the simulation being unstable, as you're putting it, the Matrix being unstable and has to be replaced. I mean, we're in a situation where vast areas of the United States are uninhabited. Good land is uninhabited and unused. Meanwhile, the cost of land that you can buy is outrageous. Like that's a untenable situation for a civilization to be in. If there's a frontier out there and dudes can't go settle it for reasons, it can't stand. I mean, people are having such a hard time affording a home. You know, if you go back and look at what it was like in the 50s, where you could work at a grocery store and afford a home, and your wife can stay home and take care of your kids. I mean, you weren't rich, but you could do it. Now, forget it. Like, most people cannot do that. The sole breadwinner is almost extinct from American society.
Yeah.
And this is all the system that we have built is morally and civilizationally unstable, even if it's somewhat economically stable. But you could argue it's not even economically stable at this point either. But just the land issue alone. Like, there has to be some resolution to how stupid that is.
Well, this is the point. This is why I will, as I fly up in my chariot, I will just say fake, 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 and go into the sunset. Is that who, according to tradition, was the first person to come up with property rights and property lines?
No, who?
Cain.
Cain, like as in Abel? Cain and Abel?
Yeah, Cain and Abel, according to tradition.
Okay.
Right, and so this is why I wanted to transition into how this happens, because people they've unplugged from the Matrix, right, a little bit, and they're waiting for it to calm down so they can plug back in.
Yep.
But you have to. This is your exhortation to stay awake even after, because you have to this. How can it be? Is always the question. How can these giant conspiracies be? How can these giant fakeries exist? And we've gone into that a lot on this show, explaining how the magic works in the dark. But I want to explain evil to people, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And what do we mean by that? Because the answer of first grade trutherism is paid and threatened. They're paid and threatened.
Yeah.
Paid and threatened. They just say that all the time. The machine gun shooting in the gambling town in the desert. Remember that one?
Oh, yes. I remember that one. The one you can't specifically mention.
The big one. The big one.
Yeah.
Some years ago, there was America's most famous gambling town, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big shooting. Boom, boom, boom. That was a bit weird. Because, if you paid attention into the aftermath, which is what, sort of I'm not paid to do, but do.
Yeah.
The hospitals when a lot of people showed up in the hospitals.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was very strange. Very strange. Because if that many people were shot, originally in the first publications, they were saying 500 people.
Yeah.
And they toned it down some. Then 20 people would have to go to this ER, 50 people would have to go to that one. And a lot of them were strangely not busy. And all of them thought that the people went somewhere else. Now, I'm not saying that the people weren't shot there. I'm not saying it was 100% fake. I'm saying something strange was happening. I don't know what. But it was a cover-up in some way on a level where you paid and threatened doesn't fit the bill anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of people involved.
Because you can't just pay. It's like the men in black can't just come in after they ate their Pop-Tarts in the morning and they'd be like, listen, to everybody, every nurse, every patient, every doctor, every police officer, every this, every that, be like, listen, don't talk about this. Could be trouble for you. I mean, they just can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
If you have one or two witnesses, okay, the men in black scenario where they come in and they threaten you or they pay you off to not speak, fine. Maybe that could be the answer. You can't, it wouldn't work, right? And so the first grade trutherism of everybody's paid and threatened, just at some point it's no longer a viable solution to these problems, but also the problems are still there. Where did they all go after they were shot? And where were the steel beams in the buildings when it fell? Why weren't there any? That's a bit, how come no one noticed? How come no one talked about it? How come people were when they did bring it up and say, there should be skyscrapers are made or framed on a skeleton of steel beams and then the concrete's poured around it. And then when it falls down, there should be the steel beams, but there aren't any. Did they all melt? And they go, jet fuel can't melt steel beams. And they go, yeah, that's my point. It can't. So where are they? And they're like, right? And so you can't pay. So how does it work? And there's a lot of, to do that, we've had to do a lot of hypothesizing into the nature of evil and how it works. And one thing that's been helpful, and I'm not sure that this distinction is true in actuality, but it's useful as a category for understanding it. And it may be true in actuality also. Mm-hmm. And this is to draw a distinction between Satan and Lucifer. Now, yes, they may be the same entity. In another sense, maybe they're sort of not. I don't know. It seems like they maybe have been conflated, but maybe not. Because, like, astrologically and even etymologically, Lucifer comes from Venus.
Okay.
Right? Like, Venus is the morning star. It's the first one that comes up in the morning at the dawn. The Hebrew name, which is translated Lucifer means light bringer, and the Hebrew name, like in the book of Isaiah where it talks about the light bringer, it means dawn bringer. It's the morning star.
Okay.
Right? It's 100% Venus. That connection is clear. But Satan may be etymologically, this is less clear, and astrologically related to Saturn.
Okay.
Now, this connection is less clear, but there may be something to it. Like the Venus Lucifer one is 100% undisputed. This one's like, maybe. So, one, right, Saturn was the head of the old gods of Greek Roman mythology, whom Zeus usurped. And Saturn, to avoid being overthrown by his children, would always cannibalize and eat them when they were babies.
Right.
Because he feared that. So he's already sort of an evil character who's tried to set himself up as God in place of the rightful rulers, sort of thing. Like that's sort of there through evil. Mm-hmm. He's also tied to the underworld. You know, like in astrological and tarot readings, Saturn is associated with death. Right. And then there's also the issue of the 666 being like in the planet itself.
Yeah, there's a weird like hexagon at the pole of the planet.
Yeah.
Which is
if
super
you believe
weird.
NASA,
yeah.
And that's a big if.
Right. Yeah.
Around these parts for me anyway. But if you believe NASA, their Cassini space probe years ago flew by Saturn. And they took a close-up shot of Saturn's North Pole, and there is allegedly, and you can see pictures of this on the Googles, a giant, apparently permanent storm, roughly twice the size of Earth, that's shaped like a near-flawless hexagon.
Right, which makes absolutely no sense.
Zero sense.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, first of all, probably fake. If there's a planet up there at all, like a ball of gas you could travel to, and not just a light in the sky or something. And I've looked through a big telescope and looked at it myself, and it looks like the planet. I'm not saying, but if it's a place you can travel to, it seems super unlikely it has a permanent hexagon-shaped cloud on it. Like, really, really unlikely.
Yeah, it's super weird.
To the point that if that is real, then it probably is connected with Satan somehow. Right? So you've got hexagon has 6 corners, 6 sides, 6, and Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun. 666 right there. It's all just a bit too on the nose.
It is.
It's a bit too on the nose. And you know, it's ringed itself with a crown as though it's a ruler. It's got a ring around it. Mm-hmm. And it's also its major moon. It's called Titan. You know, like the Titans, the giants, the Nephilim.
Yeah.
Who were the children of the fallen angels. The children of Satan. The moon, the Titan. And its other big moon is Prometheus. Which is one of the... Bit weird. Bit too on the nose. Anyway, the tenuousness of the connection between Saturn and Satan admitted. Let's steamroll ahead as if it's 100% true.
Okay.
Right? So, because some interesting things come out of it if you do. Like, so, who is the Lightbringer? Who's Lucifer? Right, so this term comes up in Isaiah. The term is given to the king of Babylon. And some folks leave it at that. And they say, oh, this just refers to whoever the actual ruler of Babylon was in Isaiah's day. Yes. But also, there's been a persistent tradition that it refers to him, yes, but also the actual ruler of Babylon, who's the same ruler of Babylon today. The same Babylon. And who is that? Well, if you read the book of Enoch, and also some smaller sections of the Bible, it's pretty clear that after man fell, some portion of the fallen angels essentially acted out the Promethean myth. Right? So, and in fact, this is probably where the Promethean myth comes from. So, Prometheus, right, was in the Greek myth, is one of the gods. He's one of the Titans, and he feels that the Sky Father, has been unfair to mankind. They are weak and vulnerable. They can't survive on their own, and so Prometheus in what he describes as an act of pity and in defiance to the gods of Olympus, comes down and gives man fire to protect them. And the gods are fearful of this in some way because this could make man as powerful as them. And for this, Prometheus is tied to a stone, and every day an eagle comes and eats his liver, which then regrows. So he's sentenced, just as Lucifer and the fallen angels were, to eternal punishment for essentially the same act that's portrayed in Enoch. So in Enoch, it's the angels, the fallen ones, who first help men build the first cities, right? They start the idea of the city. They start the whole idea of Babylon by giving men technology, right? And the first fellow they interact with is the one that does the first big bad sin, which is Cain, first murderer. Murders his brother.
Yeah.
He's murdered his brother, and then he's exiled to the land of Nod by God. Like winking, blinking, and nod. He's exiled to the land of Nod. Now, Nod is described as being east of Eden, which is, as we discussed on the show about the true location of the Garden of Eden, probably being at the North Pole, and how since the east was defined as where the sun came up, this just means the east defines the perimeter of Eden, and so he's just out of Eden. Right? East of Eden just means out of Eden if Eden is in the North Pole. So anyway, after he's exiled, after Cain's exiled, his Cain's wife births a son named Enoch, and this is the name of the first city. He names the first city Enoch after his first son. Now, this is not, just for clarity, keep this in mind, it's not the same Enoch that the author of the book is attributed to. Different Enochs.
Okay.
The writer of the book of Enoch, different guy than this Enoch. But anyway, so first city, Cain names Enoch, east of Eden in the land of Nod. And in both oral tradition as recorded writtenly by Josephus, Cain in the land of Nod doesn't really reform his ways very much. He does some more violence, does a little bit of robbery, so on and so forth. And very interestingly, listed among the sins of Cain in the first city is that he establishes, quote, weights and measures, property lines, and builds fortifications. And these are all described as sins. So today we may be like, what? Property lines, weights and measures, those are all good. We need weights and measures. But the ancients definitely saw them as sins, necessary sins to get by in a fallen world, but far outside of God's actual plan. You know, like the extreme leftists and the communists are correct in that, like, in heaven there's no property and everyone shares equally, right? That's the original plan. There are no borders on the actual earth, right? They're true. That's correct. All those are artificial. They're means of control, delineating insiders from outsiders and who has what and all that. That's all correct. But it's like a necessary evil in a fallen world. This is how fallen man gets by with each other.
Right.
By having barriers and boundaries, right? And those are all the measures that sinful people take to get along. That's what happens in the land of Nod, outside of Eden. People don't build fortifications out of love and trust, but out of distrust and fear, right? And weights and measures, obviously, is like money. So Cain introduces money, which, as we've covered before on the show, is also not something that God intended. It's a thing sinful people use to keep account of debts with each other, right? But in the kingdom of heaven, there are no debts. There's no, like, let me pay you for this. It's all free. So this is all introduced by Cain through the fallen angels who are helping him, right? And the book of Enoch makes clear that all these ideas these sinful inventions like money, idea of private property, metallurgy to make weapons, makeup for women so they can use their sex appeal to sinful ends. Yeah. All these things are said to be been taught to them by the fallen angels. And then in the land of Nod, the people commingle their DNA sexually with the angels and produce the Nephilim, the giants, the titans. Right. Okay. So that's the Prometheus story in the biblical tradition. Prometheus, the bringer of fire, the technology. Lucifer, the light bringer. Right. Just as Prometheus brings fire, the technology of the gods, fallen angels also bring a kind of illumination. They're light bringers, a kind of intelligence, light of intelligence to the earth. And isn't it interesting that the period of history we call, quote unquote, the Enlightenment was the most atheistic and and rationally terroristic of the history.
Indeed. I mean, that's been
Just
really
reign
a
of
theme
terror.
of this show since the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. And so that's one pole of evil. You have this sort of pseudo-paternal aspect of evil, this Prometheus, like, oh, you poor things, I need to help you. God is cruel. He's not going to take care of you. He's not going to do it. The earth he's created isn't enough. It's too dangerous. I will augment you from what you are technologically, through technical means, through intelligence and the gifts of my angelic wisdom, right? Which is, of course, why the company Apple Computers, has the logo of the bitten apple on it. It's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah.
It's the gift of technology. It's the garments of skin. Everything is a permutation of the garments of skin. After the fall, they feel like they are vulnerable, and then you have to cover yourself with technologies to get by in the world. And this has it's a double-edged sword, because it does make you more powerful, but it also makes you weaker. Right? So shoes are great. They empower us in a lot of ways. We can walk in places we normally couldn't. If the ground is hot, it's great. Hot sand, if it's sharp and stuff. But they also make us weaker. They make our feet soft and tender. And you become dependent on the gifts the fallen angels have given you. And that's the trap, right? That's why as technology progresses, people sort of have to fall away from God more, because they become increasingly dependent on the gifts, the garments of skin that have been given to them by the fallen angels to further. They further their power in the world, but at the cost of becoming dependent on that technology. And they can no longer give it up, and it becomes more and more difficult to give it up, because they've sacrificed their own strength in their God-given person for this augmentation. It's like a prosthetic in some ways.
Yeah. And
so this is why people could not resist the COVID thing at all, because people have become so dependent on technology for like getting by in the world. Like even stuff as stupid as Twitter. But to say nothing of their bank account and their emails, like to be shut off from those things, which could happen at the flick of a thing if they said the wrong thing, they're just terrified.
Yeah.
They don't know how to get along in the world without those things. So it's another garment of skin. It's another layer that furthers their power in many ways. They can have a better outreach. They can speak to more people. They can have more influence, but they're dependent upon it. Right? And that's one of the ways that evil ropes you in, because it's a pseudo-paternalistic thing where it's like, I'll take care of you. But then now Satan's your father, or Lucifer's your father. And that's not a great place to be, because you're dependent on him and his gifts. And that's not the best. And this, by the way, appears to continue even to this day, as we did on our show long ago about the book American Cosmic, which documents how a lot of technologies still appear to be transmitted to people through some sort of channeled or telepathic means.
Absolutely.
And they're not shy about this by quote unquote star people. Like the PCR test came to Carrie Mullis from an electric owl.
Yeah. And
Just
read
saying.
about Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, all the weird stuff
Jack
they
Parsons,
did. And he founded JPL, you know.
Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, who founded JPL from NASA, literally tried to birth the Antichrist, by the way.
Yep. They recorded the whole thing.
NASA was started. Yeah. NASA was started by a dude that tried to magically birth the Antichrist and Nazis from Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, this isn't
America.
You may hear that. You may hear us say that and think, "Oh, they're having fun," but no,
no,
they were really doing this stuff. Jack Parsons, and Nazis and L. Ron Hubbard and trying to birth the Antichrist. It all happened. And they got NASA. That's the thing. They birthed NASA in the process.
And NASA's logo looks like a lying forked snake tongue.
Yeah.
And NASA in Hebrew means to deceive.
Yeah, we're not joking about these people.
I know, it's crazy. People and this is why this is why I may be too far afield in some things to be like fake, but things are crazy on a level.
Yeah. Jack Parsons' thing,
people are not prepared for.
You can read it. It was called The Babylon Working.
Yeah. We live in a magical fairy tale world with actual evil, monstrous entities that roam about seeking the destruction of people.
Right.
And then there actually are angels and stuff. It's like, it's crazy.
This is why I avoid I avoid Washington D.C. Almost like a regular Hobbit would avoid going to Mordor, because
Washington D.C. is laid out like a Moloch owl.
It's not just that I hate American politics and don't want to be anywhere near that power structure. It's really because the evil is concentrated there. Like there are spiritual reasons for not going to Washington D.C. for me. I don't because if you live out in the hinterlands, this stuff doesn't affect you much. Like the whole thing, the spiritual nature of cities is really connected to all this stuff about the Book of Enoch and the fallen angels. That's why all the evil stuff happens in cities. I mean, it really like
it is, and this is not to say that rural people are perfect or whatever.
No, not at all.
But the city itself is a big garment of skin.
Yeah,
it's a big technology that you put on and you become dependent upon.
Yeah,
and then you have to have groupthink like everyone else in the city, else you get cast out of the city and you'll die.
Like modern megacities are like meta technology, and
yes,
and that the spiritual dimension of technology is also like multiplied,
right?
Not just how complex modern megacities are. It's not just a matter of logistics and technology and food supplies and all the complicated infrastructure that keep it running. It's also like a spiritual complexity and concentration.
Yeah, and like I said, Washington, D.C. is actually like the grid around Capitol Hill with the White House and stuff is laid out where it looks like an owl.
Yeah. It's weird.
Weird. And the Washington Monument, guys, is a giant phallus with two balls. Look at it from the sky. Look up like aerial view of the Washington Monument. There are two circular walkways at the base of it which form perfect testicles, and that's on purpose. Right, they didn't do that on accident.
Yeah.
That, for all we know, that just may be the erect phallus. When they say it's the Washington Monument, the rest of him may be underground. There may be like a giant Washington statue, and just his erect penis is out of the ground.
Oh, man.
I mean, I don't think so, but who knows at this point? One day, when Klaus Schwab pushes the big red button,
yeah,
like two glowing robotic eyes may illuminate under the Capitol, and he may sit up like and just start pounding around the countryside with a giant erect penis made of stone that probably shoots lasers or something. I don't know how weird this is going to get before it's over. Oh man, right? But it could happen. Because people are like, that doesn't look anything like Washington. And they're like, it's his penis. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. Why did you do that? Because we're evil Satanists. Oh, right. Okay. So, anyway, so that's one of the poles of evil. It's the Luciferian side. But then I think there's the other side, the Saturnic side, the Satanic side. And like I said, these are I think these are two poles of the same thing. Satan, I conceive more of like, and Satanism is like a void, like a nothingness. It's almost an amorality, right? And so the thing you eventually have to come to understand about people in power and how conspiracies happen, I think, is that they're not technically immoral. What I mean is they're not motivated to do evil per se. They don't have any morality at all. Like, I don't think if you go to the halls of power in like the Bilderberg group or the Club of Rome or the Freemasons, someone comes up to you and nudges you and go, "Hey, you want to go be evil?"
No,
I don't think that happens.
It's do what thou wilt.
Right. I think exactly. It's like a void. They have no concept of morality at all. Their conscience are dead. Just dead. They've killed their conscience. And so they're just doing whatever to get an extra dollar or a blowjob or to get on television. And if that means praising Jesus and pretending to go to church so the Republicans will vote for you, they'll do that. And if that means not knowing what the heck a woman is to curry favor with the liberals who you hope confirm you to the Supreme Court, they'll do that. If they get $1 extra from giving to the homeless, they do it. And if they got $1 extra for raping and murdering a kid on some island in the South Pacific, they do that too. Like, they literally are just empty vessels. They're just gaping holes trying to fill themselves with anything by any means necessary. That's like it's like the absence of it. It's like the darkness, the absence of any light. Like the light bringer is trying to give you like a pseudo. They're still acknowledging that there's a light that needs to happen, but they're trying to replace the light.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other one is like, we're just a void of darkness. We're just empty. Right? And this is why the Supreme Court thing happening right now is so interesting, because it's sort of like, it's like a testing of like, how empty are you people?
Yeah.
How empty of a vessel are you? Are you willing to nominate a pedophilic sympathizer to the highest court in the land because because you don't want to risk being called a word?
Mm-hmm.
A racist? Like, because that's why they put her up there. They chose her black, and they're like, she's sort of lenient on pedophiles. Let's see, and if they say no, then we'll call them racist, and then right. And so people are like, well, I guess I'll just let a pedophile into the Supreme Court because don't want to be called racist. And so the demons are like, very empty indeed. Very empty indeed. Right? Talk about consent harvesting.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but the people in government, that is who, that's what government selects for. They are that empty. They just do whatever for entirely selfish reasons to make a buck or whatever. They're so, if the people, and that's why people like to pretend that like the people are good and the government's bad. But no, the government is largely, these empty Satanists are just doing what the people want.
Yeah.
The people want them to do evil and they reward it. If the people cheered on Twitter for them being righteous, they would try to do that. Not out of any sense of righteousness, but just out of a total sense of like
Right.
aggrandizement. Right? They're just completely empty. So
they're really the government is sort of are sort of become vessels for the evilness of the population.
Yeah.
So to what, you know, whatever the population is whatever the product, the spiritual abundance of the population will be carried by the political leadership. So if the population is righteous and upright, the political leadership, even if they are hollow people, as you say, will carry the uprightness of the people necessarily, because they're going to carry whatever gets them power, right? And if the people are wicked and disgusting and overflowing with degeneracy, then the leaders of the political leadership of the world will carry those things.
Yeah, exactly. So these two things work in tandem. I think it's like two poles of an evil battery. They keep the charge going. So you have on one side, you have the Luciferian side going, hey, listen, if we don't do such and such and change this and that, this is all going to fall apart. God's not looking out for us, so we have to do it ourselves. And if that means a little moral compromise here and there, so be it. And then the Satanists, the completely empty people, just say, will I get an extra $1? And they say, sure. And they go, well, I'm in. And so think about how empty the world has showed itself to be recently. Not even immoral, but just amoral. Like, they don't even have any concept of the fact they might do something wrong. Like, all the COVID stuff that people did, which to me was clearly immoral in many ways, it didn't even enter into people's heads that it could be a moral question. Right? It never even entered into their minds.
Yeah.
Just complete vacuousness.
Right, like the idea of forcing people to wear masks being wrong. It wasn't even a comprehensible statement to many, many people.
Or to many of them, even like trying to force them to get an injection or whatever.
Yeah.
Or trying to keep them from visiting their loved ones as they're dying, and so forth and so on. Never entered their head as like could be a moral question, because there's nothing there. There's nothing there, right? And that's the depressing part of it's like there's just nothing there. And So these two poles, this is how I think evil may function. There's two poles, the Venusian and the Saturnian, the Promethean and the Satanic, which are like positive and negative poles of the evil battery, which give it charge. And I think this is how conspiracy world runs. Like, you can't just have emptiness, because then it doesn't do anything. But you also just can't have inverted goodness, like fake God, fake illumination, because that would have no one to worship and follow it. You need the two together, I think. Maybe. So, to understand how it happens, a lot of truthers, like, they come at conspiracy with the belief, like, oh, they're scheming to do this because they hate us. And somewhere up the chain, that's probably true. But most of the people you interact with that are, like, doing this stuff, literally, they're just doing the things they're doing to advance their status by the absolutely thinnest of hairs. Like a 5% raise, their stock portfolio going up by $3, or to get a girl to sleep with them. There's no malice there at all, really. It's just total vacuousness, self-serving interest. Amorality, if you like not the absence of morality. And you're like, but wait, isn't this wrong? And they're like, wrong? What are you talking about? It made us $10. How could it be wrong? Right? And their concept of good is just like, is it pleasurable for me? Then it's good. And their concept of bad is just like, well, it makes me feel bad. No concept, there's nothing there. Empty as a white woman's Instagram. Right? And her person. And so this is how this stuff happens, because it's like, as the people get more and more empty, the conspiracies get larger and larger and weirder, because I think that you could, and I think some people were really shot in Las Vegas, for sure. But I'm not sure to the extent or how many. And I think you could be like, listen, the people are so vacuous that, like, to question would make people, it would make them slightly uncomfortable, or people might think they were slightly weird. It might slightly challenge their ability to be perceived socially in a good way, and their status, and maybe their chances at, raising their status. So no one, even in like all of Las Vegas, which is a city of sin and vacuousness, when no one showed up at the hospitals, no one said anything, because they're like, well, the thought may have crossed their mind, like, where is everybody? I'm not going to raise the issue. Just complete emptiness, because maybe it would seem weird. It is not advantageous, not going to do it. And that's how a lot of this stuff can happen. Like, a lot of these people that in government that are not pedophiles are like, well, yeah, but if I say something, my chances at election incurring favor may be diminished.
I'll never get a committee appointment if I point out that some of my colleagues are total degenerate perverts.
Never get a committee appointment.
Yeah.
Right. And they're just, and the system at a certain point, when you become that empty, even approaching it feels like it burns.
Yeah.
Like, getting close to it, like, if a righteous person were to go there, and I'm not claiming to be righteous enough to do this or anything, but a truly righteous person, either they would start to feel like they were on fire, or he would. Because it'd be like the classic scene in a movie where, like, the devil possessed person walks into a church. They start going, ah! It's like that bad.
Yeah.
And the only way out of it, I mean, is probably the Great Reset. Unfortunately, because I mean, now that we have the Supreme Court lady doesn't even know what a woman is.
Well, it's like, you wonder how all this unstable weirdness that has become Western civilization got built up. And it's just like, as you were saying, it's just empty people trying to fill themselves with one more dollar or one more bit of pleasure. And all that effort has heaped up this giant unstable pile of nonsense that will necessarily collapse. And you can't just let it collapse, though. There has to be some kind of transition.
Right. Like, there's the grand conspiracy is that there's nobody home. Their consciousnesses are not they are dead.
Right.
Their sense of right and wrong is dead inside. And that enables so much, because there is like a light bringer, there is like an evil, like, do this instead, meh. But a lot of it is just that can only propagate through a completely evacuated public.
I mean, going back to 9/11 a little bit. I've been talking about it with friends and stuff. People would say, like, how would you keep that many people quiet? And
yeah,
I think to your point is that most of the people involved would stay quiet because it's fun. This is fun. This is gratifying for them, and they feel like they're part of the cool, powerful club. If you go along with it, if there's something, you find something out, it's like you don't even have to be threatened. They're like, wow, look at how powerful this is. Look at these people that are doing this. I want to ingratiate myself to them so I can have some power.
I'm in the secret club.
It's like, it doesn't,
I'm in the secret
like
club.
nothing even needs to be said for it to be kept a secret. And then then they say, but somebody would have spoken out about this. Well, people did speak out about it. Lots of people came out and said stuff about 9/11 that refutes the narrative, but they were just ignored.
Yeah,
like
by you, the person asking the question. They were ignored by you,
right? The normies ignored them,
right? Because it's an emptiness, and like, I don't want to be weird. I don't want to be the crazy person.
Yeah,
that would challenge my status.
Right. That's the thing. It's like it's all right there. It's not hard to see it. But your understanding of how human society really operates is giving you excuses for not understanding it.
Yeah, and it's just, and they're guilty of it. Like, the reason they can't see it is because, well, if I thought that, I would be weird, and people would think I was weird at work, and then my husband or wife might think I'm weird, and then my parents-in-law, and they would get mad at me, and then I may not get a promotion, and then and then we may not afford the lake house, and then if we don't afford the lake house, and that's all it is. It's just an empty thing. This is why I rail so much against money, and you do need money in the world. Like, it's a fallen technology, it's something, but also, like, you have to be willing to throw that away, to just be like, okay, and all my money into a furnace to not go down this evil road of complete, like, where you're sitting there at the Supreme Court, like, can you define a woman? You're like, no. Are you a woman? I'm not a biologist. That's insane. But that's where that gets you.
Yeah, it is. It's exactly where it takes you. It doesn't say that money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money.
Right. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
All kinds of evil, yeah.
Not that money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And that's 100%. And so you use money, yes, you need it, but you don't never love it. Never love it. Always be willing to be like, okay, this is a tool I'm using, but it's just a tool. It's like a hammer. And I don't mind throwing away a hammer if it's being used as a tool to murder people. So I'm going to throw away the money too, if it's being used as that. That's how you have to, because otherwise, or status, or like people speaking, woe to you when people speak well of you.
Yeah.
Jesus said. I mean, like, woe to you. I mean, like, Jesus was really like, listen, if everyone's speaking well of you, watch the hell out. Because you, my friend, are in danger. Right? And so you have to be really careful of because that's how you get down these roads.
And what is American politics but like a bunch of empty people speaking well of each other all the time? Like, go listen to some of those dinners that they have and speeches that they're given, and they just like sniff each other's butts all day.
Yeah, and it's and like I said, there is a light bringer aspect, there is a Promethean aspect to all this, but that's sort of high up the chain of the battery, or that's one pole of the battery, and the other pole of the battery is just emptiness. It's like a positive and negative. There is a positive, but the positive has to flow into the negative. It has to flow into a vacuum. It has to flow. It's all of these things are fractal. Like the energy, the negative, it has to flow that way. And so you have to have that emptiness to actually carry the current of the evil into the world. And if people have morality, then all of the machinations of the Luciferians does not propagate.
And it's
Just, it can.
it kind of it gives a little understanding to why these Western oligarch people are so empty, is because that they harnessed themselves to the Promethean energy for their whole life, and they became they figured out how to totally plug into that and leverage it for all it's worth, and they became incredibly wealthy and powerful on it. But
Right.
they end up at the other end of the battery at the end of the day, which is the emptiness, and they are empty.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's why you should not be jealous of these people. Like a lot of like the Instagram stuff, like I was saying about, is a tool of making people jealous of supposed success, right? But there was an interesting thread by a account named Kunli Dirkpa, KUNLEY_DRUKPA, and it was this was great. I thought about this as I was reading. It was a thread of insane Seth Rogen tweets. Did you see this?
I've seen some of the insane Seth Rogen tweets, and they are
So
super
Seth
insane.
Rogen, so Seth Rogen is a comedian, allegedly, who's known for being a stoner, right? And he's made some movies, some of which are funny. And people, this is the perfect example of this evacuated nature. And the beast system, Babylon, rewards the being empty, the being evacuated.
Yeah.
But, and people get jealous of that, and they think, well, I should do that too. But just this is what goes on in these people's heads, right? And because I saw people being like, well, I'll tell it. But so this is someone made a thread of insane Seth Rogen tweets, right? Okay, so first one, Seth Rogen bullies a child. There's a 2020. I'm not old enough to vote yet, says Ian. But for those who are, please go out and vote. Every vote is important. May the best candidate win. Election 2020. Seth Rogen, multimillionaire, famous person, responding to weird, unknown, underage person, not even 18. Holy smokes, you're a loser! Grow up! Don't bleeping enable fascists with this kind of weak bleeping bleep. I'm watching you.
Wow. What?
Yeah, he's insane. Right? Seth then explains later how it's normal to have your car broken into. The LAPD West was not only arrested, but they got all of our stolen goods back. Seth says, dude, I've lived in LA for over 20 years. You're nuts. It's lovely here. Don't leave anything valuable in your car, dummy. It's called living in a big city.
Perfectly normal, acceptable.
I can still be mad, though, right? I feel violated. You can be mad, I guess, but I don't view my car as an extension of myself. Never really felt violated any of the 15 or so times my car was broken into. Just, it's fine. Ted Cruz calls Seth Rogen a Marxist with Tourette syndrome. And then Seth explained that he countered that by saying he is actually a Marxist with Tourette's. So,
Funny.
So Ted Cruz said, even though you behave online like a Marxist with Tourette syndrome, screaming F you and F this, right? Your movies are typically pretty funny. And then Seth responded with, as someone who has Tourette's in their family and also a mild case myself, I am once again telling you to go bleep, bleep, bleep. Also, a few cases Tourette's manifest in uncontrollable swearing. Mine is manifested in twitching, which is why I need weed. And then he said, shut up, fascist. Shut up and go away.
What?
Right. At one point, he threatened to drive to Hawaii and beat up Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi said something, and he said, hey, bleep, bleep, I will bleep and fight you. I'm literally driving to where you live right now. Time is bleeping up, loser. You were a good politician once, but you've completely sold out to the right. This is the last bleep straw, and you've made fun of me before for the way I smell. And Tulsi said, that's an awful way to speak to someone, Seth. And I live in Hawaii, so I don't know how you're going to drive here from California. Also, I never made fun of the way you smell. That wasn't me. You're insane. Oh, you're a bleeping comedian now, too. Real funny. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho, he he he. Don't quit your day job, because I'm the actual comedian here. Check your DMs, bitch. Let's settle this there.
Wow.
I'm going to block you now, Seth.
Whoa, man.
My absolute favorite, is when there was a woman named Samantha Christie who was making a little thread about, like, listen, weed may be okay, marijuana may be okay, but there is marijuana addiction, and my child actually died of that. We found him in his apartment full of the marijuana he developed an addiction to, and I want to talk about that, right? 400-something thousand people were like, yeah, that's great, we'll like it, and we'll talk about the downsides of weed. And then Seth Rogen replies, are you Jewish? No? Then lick my pasty Jewish bleep 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 bleep. Ha ha ha! Niggas smoke weed every day. Ha ha ha! Blaze it up. Smoke weed every day. They see me rolling. They hating. Ha ha ha! Turn down for what? Yo! Bleep 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 you, bro! To which Snoop Dogg responded, nigga, the woman's son's dead.
Thank you, Snoop Dogg, for being the voice of reason here.
That was weed culture too far for Snoop Dogg.
Yeah.
He was like, whoa, dude, settle down. I mean, I like weed too, but, you know, hey. So, look. Some of those, I think, maybe have been faked. Some of them are not. He is actually insane online.
Yeah.
And he's a bit crazy. But my point is, some of those are fake, probably. I'm not sure. I can't find them all. But they're all funny. But my point in saying that is that sort of, think about that person that, like, and that's where the evacuated nature gets you. And then people are like, I want to be like that. And people were like, on there, like, I would be banned. People are like, I got my account banned for 1/10 of the aggression. Yeah. That he's allowed to. Why is he allowed to be like that? Like, guys, that's a punishment. Being allowed to spiral like that online is just being allowed to dig yourself further into hell. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not a privilege that he gets to do that. He is being like if you are screaming at dead women, women with dead sons, that they need their weed. You need to be blocked from Twitter because you need for your own spiritual and mental health. But Seth Rogen, because he's in the beast system, has immunity to that and is allowed to go deeper and deeper into hell. See, that's how it works. And so the more evacuated you get, the more the system rewards your evacuation. The more you put on the garments of skin, the less likely you are to pull out of it, which is why you got to avoid it from the beginning. But yeah, it's a white woman's Instagram. It's a song by Bo Burnham, by the way. He's great. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I'm not.
He's this generation's Weird Al Yankovic. He has some great funny songs.
Very cool.
He's the real successor to Weird Al. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know. I got thinking about Pizzagate and the Pitcairn Island. I can never say it. Pitcairn. Because it should be CT, like picked, but it's TC, Pitcairn.
You just want to say that because you're Pictish.
Oh, I'm not a dirty Pict. I will never concede to being a dirty Pict. Those ginger-headed barbarians.
It struck a nerve.
The Scottish Isles.
Struck a nerve.
Ugh. Well, you know, because I have a friend.
Yeah.
Right? And he did something so weird at the height of identity politics. Mm-hmm. Where he actually made an offhand comment about how I was more privileged than him.
Oh, no.
Because my people had oppressed the pigs, which was him. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about, you insane person?
Man, really scratching for those diversity points, oppression points.
I was like, this is, first of all, anyone but me would not even know, of your friends would not even know who the pigs were. A, this is not a valid identity grievance. B, your biological father was like a Native American. So that would make more sense to complain about.
Yes.
C, your mother's side lineage is very obscure, and the idea that you even are Pictish is debatable. And D, the Picts deserved it. So, whatever. It's like when the Irish people are like, we starved with potatoes. Like, yeah, you did. And you should do it again. Because you're just up there going, orange and green. Remember that? So, anyway. Yeah, no, the Picts, I will never claim the Picts.
Okay, good to know.
I'll never, ever will I claim the Pictish people. They should not even be considered Celtic, to my mind. The Welsh are Celtic, Irish are Celtic, the non-Pictish Scottish are Celtic, and those people in the north of France, they count too. But everyone else, no.
So we didn't have time to do any survival stuff today.
Did you have another one? Sorry.
No, not really.
I thought
It didn't really come together, but I did have a few. I've in doing research for the next segment. I did have a few funny observations. I was doing research on cooking in the Depression and Depression food, and it's pretty much just like leftover ingredients and salt is all they really ate during the Depression.
Well, if you salt stuff enough, it doesn't go bad.
Yeah. But there was my favorite recipe. She was this old Italian lady who was talking. She was a little girl during the Depression. And she was talking about like the stuff her mother would cook. And they had a dish called cooked bread in Italian. And I thought, this will be interesting. And then she proceeded to just say, well, when your loaf of bread goes so stale that it's hard as a rock, what you do is you break it up into chunks and put some olive oil on it and then pour boiling water on it and mash it up and then put salt on it.
Yeah.
And that's your dinner.
Cooked bread. Which is what we have been forced to eat because of the ungenerosity of our listeners.
Yeah.
Who continue to refuse to sign up. Listen, guys, if all of our listeners would sign up for Gun Road, and you should, our goal is 100%. That's our goal is 100%. You should all sign up for it because if you do, then Smokestack could finally afford his cancer treatments.
Yeah. Godward podcast guy was up on Twitter. He's got a great show, but he was up there bragging about how he enjoys our show so much, but doesn't contribute. And that just really hurt. It really hurt my heart.
Well, it hurts your heart because of your myocarditis you can't afford medicine for.
Yeah.
And that he's not, I mean, you're literally dying and he's murdering you in his sins.
Yeah.
For not helping.
Well, I think he's like an academic type.
I'm not going to say that our listeners that don't contribute voted for the pedophiles on Pitcairn Island, but they would have if they were there.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I mean, I think that, and I'm doing this because the guilting did help a little bit when we got 2 more subscribers. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing a little more guilting. You guys we need 100%. Okay. We need to just get on there now. Sign up. Are you getting anything? Not really. It's sort of like a Patreon where I occasionally give you an extra podcast that aren't as good as this one. But you do it because you love us and you want to help. And because Smokestack has cancer and
and myocarditis.
I have the dropsy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got bad dropsy.
I've got alcoholism. And you guys have to help us. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, Smokestack is going to have a colonoscopy bag.
A colostomy bag? I can't eat cooked bread for every meal anymore.
Do you know how bad that is on your cancer-ridden liver?
It's destroying my liver.
All of that salt. And our listeners just don't care. They don't care. And so they are selfish, evil, and wrong.
Yeah.
They're evacuated. Servants of Satan. And they have to, I think they may be gay.
Oh, no.
I think if you pay the gay away.
We need to hire a biologist to examine their
I don't know.
spouses.
I'm not a biologist, but I do know that people that contribute are less likely to be behind a dumpster in an Arby's at 3 a.m.
Why is it? It's always at Arby's.
They are. I mean, I'm just.
Well, they have the
obvious.
meats, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what preferred dumpster Goddard uses.
yeah.
But it's probably his favorite book is Moby Dick. So, I don't.
Y'all go check out Godward's podcast.
It's a good podcast.
He does good work.
It's a good podcast, but check it out after you go to the Gum Road St. Nicholas Project and pay at least $7.
Yeah,
you can pay upwards of $10,000 if you prefer. Listen, if you do,
should I link his
right now? If you pledge $1,000 a month, I will mention your name in every show.
Should I link Godward even though he doesn't contribute?
Yeah, you should.
Should I link him? Okay, I'll link him.
Yeah, you should. Because he's probably got. I mean, we can't speak too harshly of him because he may need it for his own medical treatments. With the AIDS. Yeah. That he is acquired.
Mm-hmm.
Behind the dumpster. And so, yeah. Sign up for it, you stingy people.
Hang on, I was going to tell him about this YouTube before we sign out. The YouTube channel I was watching for all the Great Depression cooking. It's called Great Depression Cooking, and it's this lady named Clara, and she's 94.
I think I've seen that. I think she's dead now, sadly.
Yeah, she's since deceased. But when she was making these videos, she was in her mid-90s, and everything is pretty much just like fried onions and oil and like weeds from your yard and salt and hot dogs that look really gross.
Good skills to brush up on for the coming future.
But she did have a few nice tips, and she spent a lot of time talking about how important it was that her family grew a garden, because while you still could get food, a lot of it was just garbage, like gruel, like industrial potatoes and bag of cheap flour and hot dogs and stuff. But it was gardening and foraging, which she did a fair amount of as a girl. Foraging meals for her family, like dandelion salad is one of the recipes. And you just go out in the yard and pick dandelion greens and make a little salad with some lemon juice and oil and salt and pepper. And that was it. Those are vegetables. She did tell an interesting story about one of her neighbors came into the garden. She found one of her neighbors in her garden with a shopping bag, just like taking her vegetables. And she got it onto her. She's like, "Hey, I work hard in here. What are you doing? Don't you can ask for vegetables if you need some. What are you doing?" And her neighbor kind of got huffy about it. It was like, "Oh well, I didn't know you were so sensitive about it. I'm just getting a few things." And it's just the mindset. The mindset there is so weird that your neighbor sees what you. When things get really tight and food is scarce and people are living in ways that they're not used to, their attitudes and their hearts are not going to change. So it's not going to seem weird for them to just wander into your yard and start taking the vegetables that you've worked hard on it. They don't even realize how hard you work to grow those vegetables. So just expect, it's not going to be like roving bands of bandits from the city coming to raid you. I mean, that may happen. But you're more likely... It's going to
be Miss Mabel.
It's going to be the lady down the road who's just going to wander down the road and take a bunch of your vegetables while she thinks you're not looking. And she'll be upset if you call her out on it because her pride is wounded. I mean, that's the kind of weird behavior that you're going to see as food gets more and more scarce. And maybe next week we'll talk about, I'm kind of building a little thing about an update on the fertilizer and agricultural issues. And we'll do some of that and maybe some other... suburban survival skills as well.
Yeah. I agree. Link to Goddard's podcast, even though he's Godward, sorry, even though he's has the AIDS. Yeah. And doesn't contribute.
I'll link him.
I'm not bigoted. I don't mind if you have AIDS. Just, it's fine.
have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.